Hello and welcome to Advanced Tax Pros Walking Through a Basic 1040 webcast. Thanks for joining us, and let's just get into it. At the top, along this blue bar here, you'll see a toolbar, and that's where we can start the return with this Add New button in the toolbar. So we'll click Add New, and it'll bring us directly to where we need to enter our Social Security number. So I'll just go ahead and enter a fake one. Enter it twice. If it's an ITIN, we can click this W7 button and start the return as far as the ITIN goes. We're just going to start a basic return. Click OK here. And notice it brings us to the client data worksheet first. And that's because there is very much a method to filling out a tax return. First, we want to start with entering the client's personal information, all of their phone numbers and addresses, the filing status. All of that goes on this client data worksheet. Next, we want to enter income. So any W-2s, Schedule Cs, any of that kind of stuff will come after you complete the client data worksheet. And then lastly, any secondary forms, state information to wrap up the tax return. So let's take a look at the client data worksheet here. Starting from the top, we'll just quickly add date of birth. If you look at the very bottom of the screen here, in this gray area at the very bottom, you'll notice that we have a line-by-line help. So every line in the software has a little bit of help attached to it that'll get you pointed in the right direction if you're lost. So here we'll enter a name, occupation. If you notice at the bottom, our choices has lit up. So we have this now in our active options at the bottom with line-by-line help. We can click on this choices button, and that allows us to select an option to fill this field from a list. You can see there's a whole bunch of stuff here that we can deal with. If it's something you already know, you can just enter the first letter and it'll begin to guess it. So this is one of those places where we're just trying to help you fill out the tax return as fast as we possibly can. We're going to enter a cell phone number, an email address, whether or not the customer wants text messaging, and their cell phone carrier as well. We need both of those things to be able to send the taxpayer a text message. Preferred method of contact. Jump down to driver's license number, something that we have to enter here as well. Just quickly enter one. And then it's a driver's license. And we come here to our filing status. Now notice at the bottom, it'll tell us what's expected of us here, right? So if we're entering a single filing status, we can enter 1, married filing joint, 2, separate, 3, head of household, 4, widower, 5. We're just going to enter. Now, depending on how you enter these things here, if we enter a single and I hit tab, it's going to skip the spouse information. We're really, again, into just getting you through the tax return as fast as possible, so you don't need to focus on things like spouse in cases of married single or married filing joint. Obviously, if it's married filing joint, it'll go to the spouse information. We're just doing a simple tax return here. Our address is next. Combat, military. Down here we have our banking information. This is one place that you can choose from a list as well. and it'll remember things that you type in here. So you don't have to worry about entering this. If you've encountered a bank RTN one time, it'll remember it for next time. We'll enter the account number twice just to verify it. Checking. Client referral is in case of marketing campaigns. If you want to track that, all of that is available here as well. We'll just do a little referral. Next up is our Affordable Care Act. Now, this is going to change for the coming season, but for this version of the program, what we've done is all you have to do is answer these questions, and it'll automatically add the form or the worksheet that you need to complete your compliance with the Affordable Care Act. Dependent information will go down here just to enter it for fun. Come on. If you enter the same last name, it'll guess it for you. And based on the age and the relationship, you begin to get these codes filled out here. Notice that. So we'll put in 12 months. And it's kind of expecting that the dependent lived with the taxpayer, that you're eligible for EIC and child tax credit. So and that's based on the information that you've entered here before, just in case. These aren't set in stone, so if you want, you can change these as you see fit. Additionally, we have a spot for a 2441. So if we want to add that form really quickly, since we're here talking about dependents, we can just add a 2441. If you notice over here, there isn't one, and if I click that button, it'll add it for us. ST, if you want to know what this is, be sure to look below, and it'll tell you. And that is our client data worksheet. The next thing we want to do is move into adding income. That means W-2s, Schedule Cs in case of those self-employed. And how to do that is click on the Add Form button at the very top. Add Form. And that'll bring up our Forms menu. Notice the W-2 is highlighted right off the bat. That's because that's the one that's added the most. So you can hit Enter on your keyboard if you're used to using your keyboard, and it'll just add a W-2 really quickly. If you want to search for a particular form, maybe a Schedule C, just begin typing. Because the window's open, and if you start typing, it'll just automatically assume that you're searching here. So if I enter a letter C, it'll search for the Schedule C for me. We're going to enter, well, also, let me show you some of these tabs up here real quick. We're on the Federal tab. If we wanted to search for a form by its name rather than, or by its description, rather than its name, that's what the Index tab is for. So we can come in here and type out child, union, if that's the case, and find those forms that may be a little obscure. There's a state tab as well. So if you're going to add a state, you can do that from here. Georgia's a good one. Just double click on the main form and it'll add the state for you. And there's a section for depreciation. Let's add a W-2 and take a look at filling out the form. Crosslink is very much a forms-based program. What that means is we try to make things look like the actual form. This W-2 here should look like a lot like what you would get from the taxpayer themselves. So if you're new to the software, if you're new to filling out a tax return, you can say, just make sure you match it up line for line, letter for letter, number for number, and you're good to go, pretty much. Starts out with the employer identification number. This is another one we can choose from a worksheet, or from a list, So we'll do transit, and it fills in our information down below. We have wages. It fills out lines 3, 4, 5, and 6 for us, just like normal. And some tax withheld. If you look over here in the attached forms list, this is everything that's attached to the tax return, and also a running total of the refund. So right now I've entered my income. If I click refresh, it'll give me a total. Looks like I'm getting a pretty good refund. All right, so that is a W-2. If you have a W-2 that has different numbers up here than what is automatically calculated, be sure you enter any 401k information down below, any retirement plans, any state information down at the bottom here. That may impact these numbers. After you enter everything on this form, you can go ahead and change these numbers if you want. You're not stuck with these. But I do recommend you complete the entire form before you change them, because other things such as retirement can change these numbers for you. Once you enter your income, the next is to finish up all the secondary forms, like your state information and all your miscellaneous tasks. So we're not going to add a state to this, but we do want to make sure that we have information entered in our document archive. If we open up our archive, we can click Scan Document, and I'm going to go ahead and scan my driver's license here. So we'll do an identification, we'll do a driver's license, New York driver's license, and then with our integrated scanner, we can click Snap here, and it'll take a picture of my driver's license. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And right there in our archive, we have a description, a timestamp of when that was entered into the archive, as well as who's it for. There is a way that we can import documents. So if you have your own scanner, or if you have other scanned documents you want to add to the tax return file, you're definitely welcome to do that here as well. Once all that's taken care of and you've entered all their driver's license and you've taken pictures of everything you need to, scanned in all that information, you'll want to make sure that the return is free of errors and that you're not sending out anything that's just going to get bounced back by the IRS. We have this verify button at the top. Now there's a lot of this return I haven't filled out, so when I click verify, it's going to give me a lot of error messages here. You know, something must be filled out, form isn't completed, in the case of that 2441 I just added. So all of these things will pop up if it's not done, if it looks wrong, if there are additional codes that you're looking for through here. All of that can be done with the verify. And basically, all you need to do is double click on it, and just like the rejections, it'll take you to the form and the field that needs your attention to get this fixed. Also, if you hit the tab key, it'll take you to that next item that needs to be fixed. So you'll enter again, and you'll fix this one, tab, enter, and so on until all the errors are cleared. So I'm going to cheat a little bit here. I'll go ahead and close this. And I'll open up another tax return. We'll open up Marvin here. Because I know when I click on Marvin that he's going to be free of errors. And you get this successful message just to make sure that you know for a fact that all the errors that we can find in the tax return are taken care of. At this point, you're ready to print. And there's a couple of different things that we can do when we print the return. Just to show you some of the information on the back end, when we sign up and we configure the program. Each preparer has the ability to sign their signature into one of these databases. All of this information is imported into the 1040, including the signature at the bottom. So a preparer will sign the software, but this will be imported into the tax return, so you're not signing the tax returns at all. And what that looks like is you click print here, and we have a sign doc button, and that will use your Topaz signature pad at your desk. You can also use remote signature if there's a case where the spouse isn't available or you want to send a remote signature to a primary taxpayer after you finish their return so they don't have to come back into the office. You can use a remote signature. You also have the ability to email the return to the client's email address. So a lot of different opportunities to go paperless here. I'm going to go ahead and click Sign Doc, and it'll pop up my taxpayer, and I'll go ahead and give it a scribble. If you don't like it, clear. Otherwise, click Accept, and it'll display in a PDF format. Here we go. And everywhere there's supposed to be a signature, there will be. All the state and federal, all the bank documents are handled with a signature, just like that. Here's our ERO, our preparer. Here's our scribble. Here's our ERO signature. So all of that, the bank information, the preparer information is all imported. And so what's left is just to have the taxpayer sign. And all of this is saved in the document archive with the timestamp. So you can see my timestamp right here when all this was taken care of. And if we want to look at this, just open this up. It opens up in a PDF. We can print from it. We can save it, send it in another email if that's the case, if they lose it or whatnot. So all that is stored within the tax return file itself, all in a paperless format. Once everything has been printed out, you'll want to transmit the tax return. That's done with this Q button at the very top. You'll click Q. It'll automatically mark it. If it's past all of the verify error checks and all of that, it'll automatically get a mark. That's a good thing. And then what's left is click Q. It'll get queued here. And all that means is it's ready to be transmitted from this main screen here. So we can click transmit and send it off on its way. Some additional tools, let's go back into Marvin here. If we look at the toolbar up at the top, I do want to point out we have an interview mode. So if you want to use an interview mode, let me close this and open up the one we had before. We can click interview here, and you get the sense that basically what we're trying to do is walk you through step by step each place that needs to be filled out, kind of spell it out for you, and you click next at the bottom, and you basically work your way through each of these sections over on the side here. So an interview mode is definitely available to you. There is a tool that you can use to chat with technical support staff. There's a payments button if they're paying you in cash or credit, debit card. There's a quick button if you wanted to look up the status of a tax return. You can type in the Social Security and get an update. This is my demo, so it's going to error out. There we go. But you can get an update as to where it's at. Where's my check? This tool will answer that question. Send text we saw. There is ability to add prepare notes. These notes here will pull forward from year to year, and they are also the first thing that is displayed when you open the tax return. So if you want a note to send to the next person that fills out the return or the next person that looks at it, this is a great way to do that. There's also bookmarks. So anywhere in the return, you can right-click, you get a menu in which is a option called bookmarks, and that will allow you to basically make a note that stops the transmission of the tax return. So you won't be able to send the return. This will show up in your verify. So if we look through here, we should see a bookmark right there. So it's a nice little way to prevent the return from being filed, a bookmark. And you can delete them from over on the attached forms list. Delete. All right, that is our tour of a simple, basic tax return in Advanced Tax Pro. Thanks for joining me and spending some time with me, and I hope this answered all your questions. Thank you. Goodbye.